What's going on, everyone? It's Mohammed, the host of Aware Alpha, and welcome to episode 95, 96. I'm not sure exactly which one this is going to be. I just want to say I am, grateful as usual. I'm thankful for the listeners, and I'm grateful that there's a platform that I'm able to just come on and share my voice, share what's going on with me and bring on amazing guests onto the show and have awesome conversations. With that being said, today I have another special guest, somebody that I felt drawn to energetically on Instagram, and I reached out to them. And by the looks of it, I feel like me and her are going to be probably best friends in the future. Her name is Elena, and I just want to say welcome to the Aware Alpha podcast.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Awesome. One of the first questions that comes to my mind is, what are your thoughts on childhood trauma?
Whew, you're just getting straight in there.
I'm not one for small talk. I've been told.
That's good. That's good. It's what I do.
I love it.
I just want to start by saying, for this podcast, that I am currently in Norway and I am Norwegian. So if I use the wrong grammar or the wrong words, that's why.
You'll be good. You'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, so my thoughts on childhood trauma is interesting because I recently one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram, and her name just totally and completely evaded me right now, but she usually posts once in a while these posts where she says not everyone's got trauma. Not everything is trauma. Not everyone's got trauma. We're just like humans. And I think that's like the one thing that I disagree with her a little bit, because I think we all, if you're a human today, I think we all have childhood trauma.
Yes.
And then varying degrees, of course, but I do think nothing is separate, so we can't be separate from each other. And we're not separate from Earth, and we're not separate from the universe. So we're all interconnected. So when there is trauma on Earth, we are all experiencing some kind of trauma when we're born into this life.
I love that. And how do you think somebody will, I agree with you as well, that I believe we all have some type of trauma, whether it's severe or not severe, but I also believe that we all truly have some type of trauma. And I made a post about this one time as well, that unless you are one of the few 1% of the billions, the 1% that where when you were born, your mother, father, and everyone loved you every second of the day, were there for you physically, emotionally, mentally, and was there in every second and moment to cater to all your needs, then yeah, you probably don't have any type of trauma. But even that person, by the time they were age 5, 6, when they got into the school, into the establishment, trauma happens there as well, right? So yeah, I made a post one time, like there's no way, like we are all dealing with some type of trauma. So I totally agree with you there. So my question was, how do you think now that trauma as a child affects us into our adult lives?
I think everything that goes unrecognized and everything that goes unfelt, unprocessed, and everything that goes unseen and unconscious affects everything we do. So that is why doing this healing work and starting to look inward in this reality where everyone is sort of like trying to control the outside and trying to point fingers at everyone else. But when you start to really go inside and go deep, and your intention is to go deep, you're going to be to, or you're going to have to look at all these like pieces that's been happening, events, all the moments, all the words, all the emotions that has been laying dormant within your conscious, within your DNA. So yeah, and that's why it's so unraveling. That's
Yeah.
why you start losing people. Like with me, I lost everything this summer.
Yeah.
Quote unquote lost everything this summer,
Mm,
because it's a big cliche, but when you start healing work and you
yeah.
start looking at childhood trauma and you start looking at things and it's not about becoming something, it's
Mhm.
about unbecoming all
Yes.
the stuff that you are not.
Mm, yes, I love that. It's very true. It's learning is not hard, it's the unlearning, right? And going back and realizing that the things that I was taught, the life that I lived was not, let's say, like affected me. If it shaped me into the person that I am. And the reason why I make the decisions that make, or the decisions that I made in a previous relationship or wherever, is a result of how I was raised and how I grew up, right?
Mm,
That's amazing. So would you say that, like, when you say healing, right? I'm curious, like, what does healing looks like for you? Some people journal, some people cry, some people dance, I do all of it. But like,
I do. I do all of it. I don't even know where to start with that.
mm,
Um, and I just want to say, like, healing, it's become such an almost inflated word. It's sort of
commercial.
like, yeah, it's a very commercialized word, and it also sort of, although I actually think it's a beautiful word, it also implies that you are broken a little bit.
Yes, yes.
So I've started using another word, but it's not so beautiful. It's not so pretty. You can't really commercialize it, so it's not going to stick anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking now, because I have spent so many, I spent so much of my life thinking I was broken,
Mm,
and wrong. So I'm now starting to use the word integrated.
mm,
So it's about integrating your truths and the lies you've been told. It's about integrating your inner child. It's about integrating your shadow. It's about integrating uh how you interact with life and other people.
mm.
So it's a more diplomatic way of looking at this journey. It's about being integrated, integrating human,
Mm,
instead of I'm a healing
yeah,
human. I'm a
yeah.
human healing, because I frankly, because I don't think you can escape the collective, and you can't. We're all interconnected, and we're no one is totally healed, quote
Mm,
unquote, and no one is totally free, and we won't have heaven on earth until everybody is healed and free, right?
mm-hmm.
So so I feel like healing, it's like it gives you this sort of reference point. Okay, I'm going to get to like being fully healed.
Yeah.
That's my agenda. That's where I want to go. And I've had such a hard time with that, because I've been such a good girl,
Mm,
right? I'm going to get good at everything, and I want to be good now, and I want to be a good person, and I want to be healed. So
mm-hmm.
like reference point, and I'm going to get to there. But as you go deeper within yourself, you realize, this is probably never going to really fully happen,
Yeah.
because you also look around at the world, and it's like such a chaotic place right now in so many dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being more and more integrated, feeling more and more integrated with yourself, with
Mm-hmm.
life, other humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a pretty word, but it's a it's a very diplomatic and sort of like a calming, rational word to use.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And you're so right. Even for myself, these last few years, many times when I talk about I'm healing, I right away I think about that. I'm like, if I'm healing, that means that I was broken, right? So, and I'm like, no, I was never broken, like, so it makes me wonder, like, what's a better word? And you're right, like integrated, I do like the sounds of that, because you don't heal your inner child, you don't heal your shadow, you don't heal the ego, you learn to integrate them into your as a whole person, you know? Like I believe that healing is a lifelong journey, you know, just when you
Yeah.
feel like you're all there, you know, something happens and then like it just brings you back down and you're like, oh, okay, like I thought I was all there, but I'm not actually, right? Perfect example for me is where you know, I'm single for a little while and I'm like, yeah, I'm like perfect. I am gonna get my divine goddess, like I am healed, like I can be that person for her. And then 2, 3 months into a relationship with someone and I'm like, baby, why don't you text me? Or like what, like, you know, like all of a sudden, like all these things come up, right? That I thought were already good, but it's like, no, the abandonment issues and everything starts to come back up, right? So you're truly never healed. I love that. So now, like, it seems like you have, you know, awakened, or you have realized that there's trauma and like you're going through this process of, you know, being more integrated and all these things. What like what made you, like what happened, you know, of course you mentioned that this last summer and a lot of stuff happened for you, but like, and you notice how I said a lot of stuff happened for you, not to you, because I believe life is continuously always
Um,
happening for us. um like at what point did you have a realization that like, damn, like, you know, I'm like, I need to go inward. I need to look inward because the external world, the solutions are not there. The solution is for me to go inward and start to integrate myself back into society or the world and all stuff like that. So my question is, at one point, was it the breakup? Was it losing your stuff that you were like, damn, like I need to start looking at Elena and just seeing what can I do to become more complete?
um, well, uh, the answer to this question can get really long, so I'm gonna try and keep it short. Um,
We got a while. You can make
yeah.
it.
Well, the thing is, when I was 23,
Okay.
I was working in Oslo as a TV director
Okay.
and a short movie director and editor. So I was editing television shows, and I had just come out of a very abusive relationship,
Mhm.
and I was very stressed out at work, you know, being a woman, and I had all these you know, ambitions about being, you know, a female director in the on the big screen, you know, all of this stuff. And then suddenly one day I woke up with like intense pain,
Mm.
and I had like pain all over my body, and especially in my arms. I was having like shooting nerve pain into my hands and fingers, and from there it really spiraled down into my personal hell on earth. So I couldn't sleep, and I sought help, and I had to stop work. I had to quit my job, um, and just everything was just spiraling down, down, down.
Mm.
And I was really, really sick for 8 years.
Mm.
And the system just put me, like, I saw everyone. I saw doctors and surgeons and neurosurgeons who could explain the nerve pain I was feeling, and
Mm.
you know, physical therapists and psychologists. And I was being sent back and forth between all these experts, and all of
Mm.
them put me on some sort of medication.
Mm.
And they were like, okay, we can't explain any of this. Here are your pills. Go take them and just, you know, try to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in that for 8 years, and that, and at one point, it was actually more than one point, but I had like two really close calls to ending my life
Mm.
from all of this. I just couldn't imagine living in this hell on earth,
Mm.
mentally, physically. So I came really close, and that last time I was just so close, and I felt the death, you know.
Mm.
And at that point, I think in retrospect, and I just had these thoughts this year, or I
Mm.
had the feeling in retrospect that that was the point where at the time I thought I was just, trying to fight for my life. So I decided instead of ending my life, I would fight for my life. But that was when my soul that
Mm,
has been that had been pushed so far
mm,
into the background and was so unhappy and so scared. That was when my soul was like, no, please save me.
mm,
Right.
mm,
And that was and very recently, because I'm still going through my awakening
mm,
of sorts, and I think most of us are.
mm,
But I also thought that was the point. That was the first time where I actually felt like I deserved to live,
mm,
because I didn't feel like I deserved to live before that.
mm.
So that has been really interesting to like look back at how far I've come since then, because that was like I feel like my huge spiritual awakening happened this year,
Mm,
just months ago, and it's been going like rapid pace, like super quick unraveling since then. But it actually happened 5 years ago.
mm,
That moment where I came this close, and where I have my soul must have like come back into my body, because it was
mm.
a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
It was truly like for a pure soul, like living in a vessel of hell within
Mm,
this body and this mind. So that was the time where I think I decided I deserved to live.
mm,
And since then, I I had to break out of like the medical system, because they didn't help me. They just put me on all these medications, and they had me believe that this was what my life was supposed to be like.
mm,
From there, I started, you know, getting into the alternative sphere instead, like breaking free from the medical
mm,
stuff and looking into yoga and breath work. And uh, I'm such an avid podcast listener, and I read all the books, and I get really like a knowledge, you know, sponge when
yeah,
I sing. And then I started getting, you know, a little better and a little better and a little better.
mm,
And 3 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I was able to quit all the medications that they put me on.
that's
And
amazing. Dude.
from it. I was taking like maybe between 15 and 30 pills a day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was, and what's interesting is like, it's socially acceptable because it was the medical system that gave me these pills, but I
Mm,
was a drug addict. It's just a
yeah.
socially acceptable type of drug addict, because you have all these experts saying, yeah, take these pills. And I was a drug addict. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came off them, and I've watched movies, where you see people in withdrawal, and I came off them, and it was really like being a heroin addict and stopping heroin. It was
Mm.
horrible.
Oh
So that
man.
another layer of that was like another layer of hell for me.
Mm,
And then I came out of this, and then the pandemic happened in the middle of everything.
mm,
And the pandemic didn't make any sense to me.
mm,
And that is because I had fought so hard for my life, right, and for my health. And
mm,
now they wanted to put stuff in my body and tell me what to do again. And I was like, no, 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 this doesn't make any sense to me. And that was the moment where I realized that we are looking at reality very differently.
mm.
Like as humans, we're sensing reality. And that's why the pandemic has been so interesting, because some people are sensing it completely different than others.
Yeah.
It's just been so interesting to feel into and observe this.
Mm,
Right. So that for me, the pandemic is actually accelerating my spiritual growth.
mm,
Up to this point, I had been very much like, okay, looking into my diet, looking into exercise and yoga, looking into breath work, looking into sleep science, looking into movement science,
mm,
and all of these things. But then the pandemic happened, and it was like, this doesn't make any sense,
mm,
right?
mm.
So that's like the pandemic really, spurred on my spiritual growth.
Fast forwarded your spiritual growth.
Yeah. So I
Mm,
started looking into other things, and then um this and then I started experimenting with using plant medicine.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was like the final little switch for me.
And when you say plant medicine, like microdosing with mushrooms, like what?
No, I did 2 rounds of like a big dose of psilocybin of mushrooms.
Okay, okay.
Lying down on the floor. First time I had a trip sitter, my good friend, and she gave me the medicine as well.
Mm,
Uh, because it had helped her so much. And I had researched plant medicine and psychedelics for 2 years prior to this.
mm,
And half a year, no, a year into the pandemic, I was like really starting to feel that this was going in that direction. This was going to be my destiny the
mm.
next few months. So I did 2 rounds of that. And then I did an ayahuasca ceremony in February, like a 3-day ayahuasca ceremony.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was I thought I had a very rough life, but that was like the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah. Why was it the worst thing you ever experienced?
It took me, at that point I was still not like a super spiritual person. I had a lot of resistance to God or source or whatever, word. God can be really triggering to
Yeah,
people. So when I speak about God, I speak about the ultimate consciousness behind everything.
yeah.
Behind everything that exists there, it needs to come from like one source consciousness,
Mm,
the yin and yang, the wholeness together, all of that stuff. And I
yeah.
had a lot of resistance. And I also realized I have a lot of religious wounds,
Mm,
really deep religious wounds. And I also realized that I have I had a very deep, deep, deep belief that I was evil.
mm.
So when I did the ayahuasca took me down into like, for anyone who hasn't done psychedelics, it's really hard to like explain what that, because it's so different for all of us. I don't know if do you have any experience with it?
So I haven't done ayahuasca yet, but I have been playing around with psychedelic mushrooms and microdosing for at least a year or so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How has it been for you?
For me, it's been actually like one of the most beautiful experiences ever.
Yeah.
And I think like one of my friends, she's a herbalist. She said because I'd already had a lot of tools in my luggage prior to getting into it. So me, when I started my healing journey 5, 6 years ago, it wasn't something like I was like, oh, I'm gonna start healing. Like it just happened. I went to a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and after leaving the 10-day silent meditation retreat, it just like opened up this can of worms. And then the next pretty much couple of years, all I did was cry and heal. Or I know heal sounds like the word that we were just talking about, but like I started my healing journey. I started like to because you know what, actually a thought that just came to my mind, and this is just me being on a personal opinion, but like my inner child was broken, and because of what it had experienced at a young age. So a lot of things, rough things that people would only experience in movies or something. So yeah, like I started to do that, and I remember at the time people were like, you could start like psychedelics. It helps you with the healing, journey and all this, the inner work. But I was like, no, I'm gonna do it all holistically. So I did it all through like journaling, in meditation, sitting with myself, processing my emotions, crying, and all this stuff that happened, right? And then only in the last year is when I was like, okay, wow, like I'm open to, I know one of my best friends, she's a herbalist. And so I was like, you know what, I'm open to now incorporating, microdosing and psychedelics into my healing journey. So for me, it's been just beautiful every time. But then again, I haven't taken like a heavy dose of
Uh,
mushrooms ever, right? Like I've maybe a couple of grams or something like that. So I understand maybe if I take a heavy dose, I might be experiencing something totally different, which I don't even know yet. But that's why I'm curious, like somebody that's like that done heavy doses, or even with ayahuasca, because I've been, I can feel Mama Ayahuasca calling me. It's been calling me for like at least a year. I
yeah.
almost went to a ceremony in Colombia, but it never like happened. So but yeah, microdosing I've been experiencing it, and like I said, yeah, it's just beautiful. Like it's only made me happier. It's only just helped me process things faster. It's interesting because the experiences that I experience, I am always just so optimistic. Like it's just one of the best experiences ever. But like at the same time, like it's heavy work, like sitting with my emotions and like crying for like hours and then calming my nervous system down and the inner child and talking to it and holding myself, hugging myself, loving myself, all that stuff, right? So it's like I'm like, oh, so it was so amazing, but like really somebody listening to the podcast could be like, damn, that sounds heavy, like that sounds very emotional, right? But yeah, that's kind of my experience with them. So it was interesting that you said like the ayahuasca experience was like one of the like the worst experiences that you had. Would you say it was the worst because you didn't know what to expect? Or you like, and where did you do it, by the way?
I did it in Norway.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Norway sounds like the place to be.
Yeah. It's a, you probably shouldn't talk too loud about it. It's not, it's like I think you can get away with it here from religious reasons.
Okay.
Not like, yeah, it's not like they're promoting it.
Oh, I see. No, I understand. I know what you're saying.
So I did it here, and I actually really want to do it in in like in the jungle somewhere, and do
Colombia or Costa Rica or like
and
yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, for me who has done it,
Mm,
one thing that I like to say is that I really truly believe that when you do anything in life,
mm-hmm,
you get what you can handle,
mm,
get what you need at
mm-hmm,
the time when you need it.
yeah.
So it's all, the cliche, the divine timing.
Mm,
So you get what you can handle, and you get what you need, and you get whatever you ask for.
mm,
And I think when I started this, and I kind of broke open a little bit spiritually during my first two psilocybin trips,
yeah.
sort of like I felt like my soul was like, ramping up the speed, and was like, I'm ready to get properly born now and express
Yeah.
myself. So I'm like
Mm-hmm.
ready for anything. And that ayahuasca, the thing is, when you do like heavy dosage,
Mm,
um and you have the intention of wanting to figure everything out,
mm,
and when you learn to like actually that you can actually hear your soul speak through
mm,
you,
yeah.
um you understand sort of more and more why you get the experiences that you get, and the experience
Mm,
that you need. So
mm.
I needed that experience to be really horrible.
Yeah.
and, and I didn't get it at the time. I actually felt super traumatized after it. I thought I had such a dark, rough life, because
Mm,
what happened when I was 23 and I started having these pains,
mm,
that was all because of what I've experienced since I was a very little child,
mm,
and I'm just starting to figure out how deep that actually goes. But I
mm,
had to scratch the surface, and then as you go in deeper, you get all the layers, and then it gets deeper and deeper. So it's just been like these past few months where I understand how dark it actually goes.
mm,
So in retrospect, I understand my ayahuasca experience a lot better.
mm.
But it was I cannot even I am actually surprised that I'm still alive after that, because that was like I can't even explain to you in words how horrible that was. I was Because when you do very heavy dosage, time, it's where you really truly realize that time is an illusion.
Yeah.
Time is a construct of a certain dimension that we live in this reality. But time feels completely weird, right? When you're on psychedelics, because it's diving into your DNA, it's diving out into the cosmos. It's like everything gets open, breaking open. And I was, for 100 years, I
Mm.
was in 100 different hells.
Huh.
And I died in every single hell. And this sounds super, super terrible. And it was terrible. So I'm not here all like love and light and keeping it positive and I'm laughing now because it's like I'm still alive. So I'm sort of laughing of joy that I'm still here.
So you
But
made it.
but after that, I felt super traumatized, and it's interesting because 5 years ago I wanted to die, right?
Mm,
And then after that ayahuasca experience, I had so many wounds of the feeling that I was evil.
mm,
And I had so many religious wounds coming up, believing in like the devil and hell.
mm,
So I was actually, after that ayahuasca experience, I went through 2 months where I was scared shitless of
mm.
dying
Huh.
because I didn't want to end up back in those hells because I thought that was where I belonged.
Mm.
That is a lot for one person to carry, and I just can't believe that I walked around on this earth for 2 months with those experiences and was able to like keep a straight face with everyone, but I did it. and then and then 2 months after that ayahuasca retreat, and I was still like in deep meditations. I did deep meditation work and breath work, and I was just trying, like you, like holding myself and taking care of myself and giving myself some time and trying not to overthink things.
Mm,
And and then I had one night, and this is getting really like esoteric, right? But right before I went to the ayahuasca ceremony, I decided my last sort of medical intervention thing that I was carrying in my body was a hormonal YUD,
okay.
right, for pregnancy
Yes,
preventions.
yes.
Yeah, and they put me on that when I was 16. So I've been on that for like half my life, and they
Mm,
put me because of hormonal issues.
yeah.
So right before my ayahuasca, I decided to remove it, even though I just put a new one in 3 months ago.
Mm,
I decided to remove it. And then when I came out of the ayahuasca, I was like, okay, I need to heal my body because I was freaking out,
mm.
having to experience the same hormonal issues as prior when they put me on all of this shit.
Yeah.
and and so the thing is, I I had 3 months without my bleed, so without my
Mm,
period,
good, good.
which is really normal when you remove something like that and you've been in on half your life, right?
Okay, okay.
So it's like 3 months after removing my YUD, 2 months after my ayahuasca, and it's the full moon in April, and it's the full moon in Scorpio,
Mm,
and Scorpio, my planet Pluto, which is for sexuality
mm,
and the dark planet and darkness.
mm,
And I started to bleed on the full moon that
mm,
night, and this like super intense meditation on my womb space.
mm,
That is sort of like the point where I felt I was spiritually awakened,
mm,
because that was a night of just my body and my mind and my heart and my womb and everything just cracking open.
mm.
And I felt like I was going insane, and I was like, okay, now they're going to come pick me up, they're going to send me to the hospital, and they're just going to keep me there.
Yeah.
But that was like, yeah, a very special night for me where
Mm,
everything turned around. So every a lot more from that ayahuasca experience made sense all of a sudden. And
interesting.
I was shown that I'm not evil. There is no human on this earth that is inherently evil, because evil is just a frequency, and it's just a lack of light. And
Mm-hmm.
light is it's just information, right?
Yeah.
So when you have lack of light, you have lack of information.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see, it's so dark, so you don't know any better, so you think you're evil, or you keep doing quote unquote evil things
Yeah.
because you don't have any other information
Mm-hmm.
about who you are or who you can be or what the world can be for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing all that. Yeah, like I have so many questions. We need like a 8-part podcast for all this conversation. So you were like you were seeing the medical establishment, doctors, all these things. So when you were actually going through all that stuff, well, what did they tell you? Like, what did they diagnose you with? Was it PTSD, depression, anxiety disorder? Like, what was the thing that you were diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed. You have no idea, Mohammed. I'm looking at my papers sometimes because now they're everywhere, right? Which is
Yeah.
freaking me out. But
Yeah.
they love diagnosing shit.
Mm.
And the way that the paradigm or the matrix works right now
Yeah.
is that you have all these experts that look at the human body and human in general in pieces, right? So they look at like one puzzle piece and like diagnose that part. Okay, you have issues with this part, so we're just going to diagnose you. This is what you struggle with. And they look at this one tiny puzzle piece that says nothing about who you are
Yeah.
or your history or or the collective or anything, and then they diagnose you with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big issue for me because and that is why I now I'm so multi-passionate, so I'm always like looking to absorb new information and
Mm.
putting together the puzzle pieces so I can see more of the human, more of the world, more
Yeah.
of what reality and consciousness actually is, what love is, right? So you put together these puzzle pieces
Mm-hmm.
because just looking at one, it makes you like there's lack of information just
Mm.
looking at. So
Yeah.
in that, looking at just one puzzle piece is a little bit evil if we're gonna call it something.
Yeah, no, it's true. I agree with that. And like I have been same thing. Like I was 5, 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with a bunch of stuff, depression, PTSD, anxiety disorder. But like it was just me going through the establishment just to see what they were saying. I didn't take any medication or nothing. Like I've always been against medication. Um, I've never even like put anything in my body. So that's what I was curious about.
Wow.
Uh, so like, for
Good
me,
for
this thank you. Actually, I've never
former
actually,
drug addict here.
actually,
Well, drug addict, that is.
it's interesting actually, like the way you put that, like, if because the establishment gives it to you, you're not considered a drug addict. But if somebody was just buying that stuff from the street, they would be looked down on and be like, no, that person is like, what
and
a,
they would and they would be shamed, and they would be treated as criminals. But as long as you get it from the right paradigm, what we
yeah,
deem as good, this is good and helpful, then
yeah,
that's okay.
right.
Uh,
They have good marketing. They have the way they're able to, they have good marketing. Another question you mentioned. So, did you have a traumatic childhood? Like, how was your childhood?
I'm still I had to move back into with my parents
Yeah,
this summer because my life my life was really good
yeah,
um and earlier this summer,
yeah.
but had my spiritual awakening and sort of everything changed and how I look at things and how I experience and feel things
Mm,
have completely changed.
yeah.
And I'm still working through so much and I'm getting into all the deeper layers now, which is
Mm,
really intense for me.
mm,
um, and I'm here at home with my parents and I feel all these triggers, right? And I have all these triggers and I am quite reluctant to answer that question
okay.
at this moment because I am actually really scared because I'm a talker.
Yeah.
I'm a soul who expresses, and I've always done that. I always like try to express the stuff that I didn't understand and try to understand them. And
Mm,
I've usually always been punished, right?
mm,
That has also happened during the pandemic. I've been one of the few here in Norway, actually very few here in Norway, because it's such a country of conformity. So
yeah,
I've a few who kind of been speaking up against the jabs and the mandates
yeah.
and and everything, and I've been punished for it.
Mm,
But that has been okay because I feel very secure in myself, and they can't really touch me in that way. But it's a whole other deal with family,
mm,
and I lately I've been having like a lot of fear that this is going to going into like the deepest is going to take away my family.
Okay.
So I have a very real fear, yeah, about that.
Okay. Okay. We can discuss that on the next podcast eventually.
You know, just contact me in like a few months and I'll probably be like, yeah, I moved out of the country and just escaped everything. No, the thing is, I just want to say, because this sounds really, really terrible, and I just want to say that um, in all of this and in all of the healing and talking about trauma, what I notice with people around me when I talk about trauma, they have a lot of resistance, and it's a resistance because they don't want to be bad people. And it's really hard to explain to humans who are still sort of stuck in like the good evil. So some humans are evil and this is where you're good and this is where you're evil, right? And to me, trying to explain to them that I don't view it as that. I view it as, you know, every single human actually do their best with the information, aka the light,
Yeah.
the ability to hold light and information within themselves, and what they have been allowed since they were young and since they were babies, and from their ancestral line and in their DNA, right? So it gets really complicated because I would love to have like a deep conversation with, like, let's say my parents.
Yeah.
But it very quickly becomes like very heavy resistance, and I can feel their need to be good people.
Yeah.
And I know what that feels like because, as I just told you, I've had massive like fear of being extremely evil, and I've been working through that, and I'm still working through that because it's the spiral of healing, right? Or integration. It's a spiral of consciousness. It goes down or it goes up, and you all meet the same sort of tasks, the same lessons, the same confrontations this way and that. So I know why they feel like that, but I also have to protect my own heart within this, because when they have that type of resistance and they don't want to maybe listen to me when I say, but the thing is, it's possible to say, I know you did your best, but this is my experience.
Yeah.
This has hurt me, and this is still hurting me to this day, and this is what I need to like do to integrate my childhood. But I don't think of you as evil. I don't think of you as bad people. I think of you as having your own trauma and having had the chance to heal that. Right?
Yes.
And that's why it's so difficult, because humans are so stuck in dogmas still, and in this like dualistic way of looking at things, and this like non-nuanced way of talking about things. So it's really difficult to like sort of hold all the realities and truths at once.
Yeah. And that's the process, like when you start to like heal trauma and become awake about not just trauma but like everything in the world, what you thought the world was and what the world really is. And then say your parents, like you wish to have these deep conversations with them, you wish to be like, this is what's going on, but it's like they are living in their world and this is what they believe, right? So anything that doesn't go with what they believe, they're going to reject, right? Cognitive dissonance, whatever it's called. So but I totally understand what you're saying. And that's the other thing. And then you have to protect your heart, like you said. Like you cannot talk to someone like that and try to have a deep conversation, because they're going to get triggered, and then they're going to start shaming you or judging you for thinking and believing, right? And that's why it's so beautiful, and it's super it's just really good to have a soul family, right? Where the family that actually gets you, the people that actually understand you. That's what's happened for me, actually, on a side note. So like I moved away from home last year. I was on so like one side of Canada to another side of Canada. So like I moved 3,000 kilometers to the other side of the country. But it wasn't because like I was in the search of my soul family or anything, or but it just happened. Like I came here for a 2-week trip that turned into a whole year, and like I'm still here, and I'm probably going to be here for another year before I
Amazing.
move to the jungle or Norway or somewhere.
Yeah.
um, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, you do yoga and you teach yoga now, right? I seen one of your videos where you put a tape on your mouth and then you
Yes.
you go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, that's it. That is very people find that so extreme. Did you find that so extreme when you saw it?
No, I just thought like I actually thought it was a good idea, because like I'm trying to breathe more like into my nose, out of my nose, because there's much more benefits. You get more oxygen, like all that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm a health nerd as well.
Yeah.
So I'm well aware of that. And there's many times like I go to sleep where I'm like into the nose, and then when I seen that, I was like, that's a good idea. Like just tape my mouth. Then I'm really forcing my breathing to go through my nose and my nose, right? But I also understand that I'm sure for 9 out of 10 people that see that, they're probably like, why is she doing that, right? So
I
yeah, I want you.
I totally get it, and it's just very interesting again when you sort of wake up to the multiple realities that we're in,
Yeah.
and how we perceive, again, with the lack of information, the
Mhm.
lack of nuance, the lack of looking at multiple dimensions at once.
Yeah.
It's do all these like weird shit, like looking at our screens for hours a day,
Yeah.
and driving like these vehicles for 80 kilometers an hour,
Yeah.
and drinking alcohol, and some of us have been socially acceptable drug addicts and stuff, and that
Yeah.
is normal. But when you
Yeah.
put a little tiny piece of tape over your mouth because you want to use your nose at night, people are like, oh, what? And I actually had followers who ended up unfollowing me after I became more extreme, quote unquote, who wrote me, you shouldn't advise people to put tape over their mouths at night. They can choke, or if they can't breathe through their nose, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
And you saw that post. I actually made a video, right? So
Mhm.
it's just a little tiny piece of this like surgical tape that you can buy at the pharmacy,
Yeah.
and it's like a little Charlie Chaplin mustache, right? So
Yeah.
it's from the upper lip to the lower lip,
Yeah.
and it's just a little tiny piece of pressure so
Mhm.
that you won't open your mouth, uh, just this casually open your mouth naturally at night, like a lot of us do,
Yeah.
because we grew up with too soft food, or we grew up with ultra processed foods.
Mm.
We grew up maybe not having to had breastfed, right? All of this affects our face,
Mhm.
our sinus, and the same with today when we're so full of crap from everywhere.
Yeah.
You have childhood allergies, and you start breathing through your mouth because your sinuses are clogged, right?
Yeah.
So tape, all it does is like just push your lips together gently. So if
Mhm.
you're if your sinuses are really tight,
Yeah.
and if you need to throw up for some reason in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
the tape is going to break. It's
Yeah.
like people have to worry, but I use that tape so that I can within your sinuses, within your airwaves, you have tiny muscles,
Mm.
right? And they need exercise too, just like any other muscle in the body. They
Mm.
need exercise too. So if you're used to mouth breathe, those muscles are going to get weaker, and it's just going to
Mm.
create all these like problems throughout your entire airwaves.
Mm.
Not waves, airways.
Okay.
Yeah. So I use that tape so that I actually exercise my sinuses at
Mm.
night as well.
Interesting. I'm gonna actually start doing that. Like,
Yeah. You have to tell me your experience, because
yeah.
you know you're supposed to breathe through your nose when you rest,
Mm.
and preferably throughout the day. It,
Yeah.
you should only use your mouth really when you do breath work, because you have difficult physiological effects,
Mm,
different, not difficult, but different physiological effects if you breathe through your mouth
yeah, yeah.
like that. And if you're gonna do like a Olympic record of some sort, and you need to like, run really, really fast or run from a tiger, sure, breathe through your mouth. But
Mhm.
if you're not going to do that, breathing through your nose gives you tremendous amounts of benefits. And
That's what I heard.
you nose at night when you sleep is going to bring you into deeper sleep.
Mm,
And modern humans today, we really, really need to take back our sleep, because we our sleep is wrecked, man.
yeah.
It's like it's getting affected by the lights and the screens and the stress and the lack of body awareness and the lack of like breathing and our ability to down regulate it in the evening. We're also like, you know micro stressed all the time, and we
Yeah.
really sleep. So
EMF, the EMF from the Wi-Fi things,
uh,
like everything. Like we're literally like we're just being just hit and attacked 24/7, mentally,
yeah.
physically, emotionally, sexually. Like it's just trying to make us not be whole, because that's the only way they can make money, right? So that's the way it
And
is.
that's us out of our powers as well.
Exactly.
uh, the more whole you become, the more integrated you become,
Mm,
the harder you are to manipulate, the harder you are to control.
mm-hmm,
It's going to be more difficult to use you within the system,
mm-hmm.
because the more you take your power back, your health back, your awareness back, the more sovereign you're going to become, the
Exactly.
happier, the freer you're going to become. And it's just not good for the capitalist system.
Not good for their marketing team. They will be losing
No,
money.
not at all. So
um,
I recommend the mouth tape.
yeah.
Just start there.
Yeah,
Start with no.
I definitely am going to start, like, because I've been consciously, like trying to breathe more through my nose. Probably in the last year, like, I read a piece of information why nostril breathing is so much more beneficial than doing it through your mouth. So yeah, like I've constantly been trying to do more of it, right? And then I seen that, I was like, man, that is a good idea, right?
That's
Um,
good.
so another thing I seen on your Instagram, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. So tell me about that. Why do you think that, or where did you get that from, or yeah, like just your thoughts?
Oh, do we even have time for this? Because this is like, told you, like I've been going through the top layers of being me and being human,
Yeah,
in this lifetime, in this world right now. So I started with stuff like the mouth tape and getting my sleep in order and getting my nutrition in order and all of that. And the last sort of and then I've been through like, oh yeah, breath work will solve everything,
mhm,
and yoga will solve everything. It will bring you so deep. And then I meet plant medicine, and I'm like, okay, nothing beats plant medicine,
yeah,
because plant medicine brings you even deeper, and you can sort of ramp up the speed of your integration
yeah,
and your deep work.
yeah,
But then I removed my hormonal IUD. I
yeah,
connected my womb space. I
mm,
fixed nutrition even more, because I used to be vegan, so that's a whole other conversation. And
yeah,
now I'm um and then I just started having these downloads and these revelations about my womb,
mm,
about my pussy, about my sexuality, about sexual energy.
yes,
And I had all these, like, I've been just like getting like these revelation, like, you see my posts on men, those are the same. It's like it comes from nowhere, and I just have these like downloads and revelations, and I'm like just so super excited.
mm,
And the thing about this horniness is because one of the things that I've really learned, like deep down, right, I believed that I was evil,
mm,
right? I believed I also have broken parts. Like, yeah, my inner child has been broken too, but that doesn't mean I'm broken, because I'm my soul. That
yeah,
is something recognize I am my soul. That's like my deepest essence. So my broken child, I can save her because she's a part of me that's not yet integrated, right?
Yeah.
And I just realized that I carry all this trauma from my ancestry and
Mm,
from my mother in particular,
mm,
about not being turned on by life, by
mm,
not able to receive, by not being able to feel pleasure, because you always feel like you have to sacrifice and be a good girl or be
yeah.
good or work hard, and
Mm-hmm.
only get the love if you sacrifice yourself, if you sacrifice your energy and sacrifice your body and sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
your time. So this has been, it started like really on the surface, but this shit is going deep. So
Mm,
just started exploring my sexuality, like my pussy. That's a whole big subject, in my
yeah.
womb.
Mm,
And this is the first time I'm admitting this, like in public with
mm,
you, Mohammed. But this is like, my sexuality is actually connected to my deepest, darkest trauma
mm,
from when I was very young.
mm,
And I've had these experiences during this work of self pleasure that
mm,
hasn't been so pleasurable because
yeah.
I've been in so much pain, and my vagina and my womb has been in so much pain. So
Mm,
this, I'm just starting to unravel this.
mm,
Very new to this. So when I'm on my Instagram, I know the truth of this, and I'm feeling it, and I'm having these revelations, and I'm writing it in a moment of being horny and turned on by life, because
mm,
I also get to experience that a little bit in between here.
yeah.
But then I know, as I will travel this journey, that I will be able to heal
Mm,
my my pussy and my feminine body and my feminine spirit.
mm,
I just feel it so deeply. I see all the steps, and I just try to not overthinking and just keep doing what I've done
mm,
very beginning, when I decided to save my soul, where I
yeah.
decided that my life was actually worth something.
Mm,
I I just, you know, dive into it,
mm,
and be brave and just keep exploring it. And I think sexual energy, men and women, it's been so distorted, it's been
mm,
inverted,
yeah.
it's been and it's like you said, it's being destroyed from like everywhere, like the
Mm,
food we and the water, the tap water, the showers, the Wi-Fi. They're just really trying to suppress it because it's truly life force energy.
exactly. No, I totally agree with that. That's something, a topic I talk a lot about, sexual energy. I have a program helping men get over watching pornography. So sexual
Yeah.
energy is a topic that I talk a lot about. I've spoken a lot of workshops to women and men about understanding your sexual energy, how to use your sexual energy to heal and integrate into being your whole self. And at the same time, for women, the whole idea of patriarchy, religion, being a good girl, being when your husband wants it, when the man wants it. There's a lot of trauma, right? And one of the steps to integrating being into your whole self is when you truly discover the power of your vagina, the power of your sexual energy, the power of just yourself as a sexually feminine woman, because there's so much power in that, right? Yeah, like, first, and also just want to say thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared with me. I truly appreciate it, and I hope that I held space for you during this time.
Yes.
I feel like we could talk for another couple of hours. Unfortunately, we must end this podcast interview. So before we finish off the podcast, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping onto this podcast with me. It was a pleasure. It was a great conversation. And I'm looking forward to sharing this with my audience and for them to get to know you as well and connecting with you as well. Please let everybody know where they can find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to, find you. What is a great place for everyone to find you?
uh I am using Instagram a lot. So I'm there at Helena Wild,
Okay.
and without any punctuation. So Helena Wild, like Oscar Wilde. with the E at the end.
Yeah.
So at Helena Wild, yeah, that's my Instagram. I'm very active there with all my controversial bullshit.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll definitely share that in the podcast details. And yeah, lastly, just want to say, yeah, thank you so much for jumping on board. I had a great conversation with you.
Thank you, Mohammed. You're awesome. And I'm so happy you're here with us and contribute with your knowledge and your experiences. It's just so important, I think, like the new leaders and teachers of this world are going to be the one who's been like, going through the school of life, not necessarily any fancy university or fancy workshops or fancy teaching, but just like having gone through hell and come out the other side with the knowledge that you have. I think it's great. And I just want to commend you for doing like men's work. I've been talking for men, speaking up for men, because I think if we get our men more integrated, it's going to be for our women to
Yes.
be integrated as well.
Mm.
And we've been against one another for so long, and I just think in union we're just going to do amazing things. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate the compliment, and you're definitely right. The more integrated the men are, easier it will be for the feminine to integrate and also to really blossom in this world. So yeah, thank you so much. And lastly, as we finish off this podcast, for the listeners, just want to say thank you guys. I am super grateful for this. My intentions are for you that as you listen to this podcast, hopefully you take some value from this. Hopefully you learn something from this, and hopefully you get inspired to take action, whether your goals are to make money, whether your goals are to be happier, more joyful, more sexually liberated, whatever it is that you desire. I hope that listening to this podcast, listening to this episode, that you are inspired to take action and start that journey today. And until next time, stay an aware alpha.